Hey guys, so today I'm bringing you another video. Now, welcome back to a dev update. Apologies, I haven't done this. This is actually like a week old. I've just been a bit busy. Stuff has happened in life. So I finally got around to do it, and it's actually worked out well. I've got a good video that you would hopefully have watched earlier, and I've got a good video tomorrow, so I kind of didn't want to put them back to back as first and second video. So you get this video tonight, and then another good game tomorrow. So, I know some people gave me feedback that they ultimately don't want, like, just me to read this and stuff. So what I'm going to try and do, I'm still going to do it in my way. I'm going to read it a bit, but I'm going to try and expand with just more thoughts, not just read it. So thanks for the feedback if that was one of you. So basically, again, don't need to read it word for word. What they are doing, in essence, is they're committing that each rank split will come with an accompanying gameplay update. So something significant enough to make a deal about it, not just like balance changes or anything like that. So what they're saying is the first split of each year is the biggest gameplay update. So like where we used to have pre-seasons, it would be pre-season, the big update into the season. Obviously, we don't have a pre-season anymore, but split 1 starting January will be the big whatever it is per year update. Split 2, which obviously is starting, I think, May 15th, will be a medium-sized gameplay update. And then split 3 will be the smaller one. They have said, like, what these are similar to. I can't specifically remember what happened in 13.10 and 13.20. One of them might have been, like, the durability update and stuff like that. What my opinion about this, I would say, though, is I like and dislike it. I still don't love that there's not a preseason. Don't get me wrong. I really didn't like a 3-month preseason. I definitely feel like, yeah, that shouldn't have been a thing. It was quite boring. It probably did make a lot of players not play the game, and that's bad for any game company. But I also do feel if you don't have any form of testing or big changes, like proper testing, the PBE doesn't really count. It's a bit of a mess, and it's a risk. And I feel a patch rotation in League of Legends is typically 2 weeks. And I do feel you could do, hey, here's the new changes during the Christmas period. Do it on December the 20th and then have the season start January 6th like they normally do or whatever. Do a 2 to 3 week period over the Christmas period where a lot of people don't play games anyway. Do the update then on live servers. Gather all your data that you may need to balance it properly, then launch it. That's what I would like. Let me know if you guys agree to that. Again, obviously, every now and then I'm invited to dev meetings, and that is something that I will probably ask and share and see what they say. But what I would say about this specifically, it's nice to know what to expect. So, okay, the big update is coming at the beginning, then it's going to get smaller and smaller. What I don't like about it is if, let's say, the season starts and it's a big update, in terms of this kind of strategy, it's leaving no room for them, in a way, revoking it. Because if they're doing a really big change and it's not gone well, it would be a really big change to take it back. So in this kind of parameter, would it be a big change the next split 1 to get rid of the bad changes? I don't like that it's a bit fixed, if you know what I mean. It's a bit like set in stone of when big updates can happen. So if they do something that's unhealthy, that could be bad. I accidentally pressed spacebar. So yeah, that's one thing I would say. It is nice to know what to expect. But obviously, it goes without saying, not every class, not every type of champion all gets changes. So we'll see, obviously, within this, the major class, that seems to be, obviously, Riot's favorite, dare I say, it's AD carries, once again. So AD carries got on a big item overhaul last season, when, again, it was a very controversial thing that Riot did because mages were struggling way more than AD carries. Mages were not being played that much. AD carries are still being played every game. And Riot was like, okay, mages, we hear you, we understand you, but we're going to do this AD carry change when we don't have to. We'll focus on mages at the beginning of the season. They haven't really done that, and straight away AD carries are now getting another change. And it's like, ooh. Obviously, Riot loves AD carry. Like, you can't hide away from that. It is the main carry of the game. It's the carry that you protect the most, so you can kind of maybe see why. But, yeah, Maya is snoring at my feet.
Absolutely.
going into the AD carry update. So why are they doing it? So in essence, when they got rid of mythic items, they removed, unhealthy items, and they did balance and his items and stuff. But in essence, they're saying it didn't land well with AD carry players. Now, the problem with this, and again, I don't mean to be a dig at AD carry players. In player feedback, told us AD carry players, compared to all champion and roles, were the least satisfied with their item systems. I'm going to be straight up, and again, I'd be interested to know if people agree or disagree. I think no matter what you do to AD carry items, the AD carry players would always be the least satisfied no matter what. I think that's just AD carry players. So, like, even with, we're focusing and giving them a big item change. Yeah, after a month of the new items, if you did another survey, they'd still be the least satisfied. I think that's just an AD carry thing. So going off player feedback about satisfaction and all that stuff, I don't think is a good way to do it, because I don't think AD carry players are ever satisfied. So, again, so one big thing that they are doing, just worth mentioning, they're changing back another thing that it used to be. So back in the day, crit items used to give 25% crit. They changed it to 20 to slow down AD carry's crit spike. They're reverting it. But what they're doing, and I would say I have done a read through this, by the way, I'm vaguely on board with it. So too many AD carry items are giving too many things. So they give, AD, crit, movement speed, attack speed, 4 things. They're stopping that happening. So now items will now only focus on 2 out of the 3 offensive scaling stats, which are attack damage, attack speed, crit strike. So you will not have an item that has all 3. It'll only be AD and crit, or attack speed and crit, or crit and attack, whatever combo it is. There's only 2, which allows basically an item to be more niche. Of this is a burst AD crit item, doesn't have attack speed, but you can basically make those 2 things that you're giving the item, the niche of the item, you can make it stronger. I'm okay with that. That's actually a completely logical thing to me, because it was, in essence, a lot of items are just giving AD carries everything across the board, but like little by little, and then they would need to be level 3 to be equivalent of another class that has 2 items. Or 3, they need 3 items to be equivalent of a class that has 2 items, because their items weren't as stat heavy as the individual stats. They had a lot of stats, but like the weighting of them were less AD than, let's say, a fighter item, for example. So they're doing it to create more distinct power spikes, in essence. So I don't mind that. So like Phantom Dancer is an example. So current Phantom Dancer has its power spread over 4 stats: attack damage, attack speed, crit, and movement speed. In addition to those, it also has a passive that helps gain more movement speed over the course of a fight, up to 65% total attack speed. In our new system, it instead gives upfront 60% attack speed, so less as a ramping thing, but you just get it all the time. It has no AD, and it no longer has its passive, but it allows the item to be cheaper and actually give more movement speed. And to really cement it, it's not to really cement it as not the only best way to gain a ton of attack speed, but also a great way to stay mobile both in out of fights. So this is a better item for mobile AD carries. Let's say like Zeri might love this item, but maybe a worse item than something like Draven, who wants just more raw AD. They're kind of giving the items, instead of like, oh, everyone can build everything, they're going, no, this is what this item now does. This is what it's really good at. Decide if you need it or not. I like it. It's giving a decision-making back to item purchases, but in a healthy way. Because you bet your bottom dollar there'll be an equivalent of this item that gives no attack speed, no movement speed, but it's about doing as much raw damage as possible. That's good, because there are different types of AD carries, but a lot of AD carries ended up buying the same items, no matter what type of AD carry they were. It's weird. So that's basically it. So they are explaining what more is happening. It is worth mentioning, though, it's a bit controversial. So we've had upgraded boots over the years, and I've actually quite liked them. I thought it was actually quite interesting, because sometimes you feel that your boot slot, especially at the late game at 6 items, it's like, oh, boots aren't that strong, I have to keep it though because of movement speed. They're giving, and this is where it's controversial, only AD carries a boot upgrade. So I don't love that it's only AD carries, and this is where a lot of people, and not just me, say AD carry is the golden child of League of Legends. They get the most item updates than any class. They get the most benefits of any class. It's another example of that. So it kind of sucks that not every class is getting an upgraded boot item, but they are doing that. So in essence, we think it's important how AD carry class survivability is tied to their movement and their way to not only fight at the edge of the fight, but also avoid incoming danger. So they are getting, I don't know if they're saying it specifically here, but yeah, they're getting a boot upgrade. I think it's actually called Zephyr, which the items existed in League of Legends before. But they are also just saying here, you know, we've mentioned a lot about crit and stuff, but if you're an on-hit AD carry of users like Blade the Ruin King, Kraken Slayer, and Terminus, they are doing stuff for that as well, but that will be in the patch notes rather than this article. Removals. So this is where I would say it gets a little bit spicy, because they are removing things. They're removing one big thing. Like, it's kind of nuts. Because hilariously, they're not really removing it because it's unhealthy for AD carries. They're removing it because of two Wind Brothers. So part of the update, they're parting ways with the Shard and Stormrazor, which means that we're moving the Energize system to a legendary item feature only. The Cyclo Sword and Rapid Fire Cannon will have the Energize, like, spark thing. And they'll have their item builds to compensate, but still provide the Energize effect. Stormrazor is leaving the system once again, since the hit and run nature of the item never really found a home in many users. So stop bringing it back. This is the thing. I don't like when Riot do this. They go, it's not good. Bring it back again. Okay, 3 years later, it's back again. Like, ugh. If it was gone before, there was a reason it just didn't survive as an item. Anyway, so basically a new component, Scout Slingshot, is coming, and it hails, like as in throws, magic pebbles at the opponent, or Wraith Hunter's arrow to help your crit strikes make your enemies bleed. Crits that bleed, that's scary. So even if you're a fan of one of these items, our goal is to give you users a new place in the AD carry system. Runes. So they are removing Predator. The reason that they're removing Predator is it never could be, let's say, balanced in a healthy way. I think that's the way that you'd probably describe it. Predator became a singed, in essence, only rune, a little bit maybe of Warwick or something, but whenever Predator was good, singed mid lane would return, and singed mid is Katarina on steroids of he's never mid lane. It's all about roaming with Predator, boot rush, run bot lane, and basically it's still been in the game, but nobody uses it. So you may as well just get rid of it, because they had to nerf it so much to make it pointless. And when you're doing that, you may as well remove it, because then at least you can, like, have something maybe more interesting. So that's going away. But they're just saying we've kept because of the unhealthy gameplay patterns, we've kept the rune extremely weak for a long time, which isn't fun for everybody. So I agree with that. And here it is. Lethal Tempo is going away. Wow. It's crazy, isn't it? So, you see a lot of lethal tempo, obviously, across lanes and classes. Over time, we've grown more aware of the way lethal tempo disrupts the item system space by allowing champions to shortcut attack speed purchases, which is true. Not only this should help delay the early game, etc., of when they come online and all that. So they're saying, as a bonus, this helps a ton with Yasuo and Yone as well. They can't just right-click you and win. Now they'll have to rely more on smart skill usage to succeed. I'll be honest, I think Yone players are going to panic about this way more than Yasuo players. Like, genuinely. I say this with not complete salt. Yasuo players are actually pretty good. Like, it's not 100% free. It's not 100% because of their champion or why they can do good. They are skillful if they're good at him. Yone players aren't. Yone players, it's the champion and lethal tempo. You have to remember, though, specifically, Yone and Yasuo, it's something like a level 1 fight. If you proc lethal tempo, it's 1,000 roughly gold of stats. When you're playing Yone and Yasuo and you have 1,000 gold worth of attack speed at level 1, you can see how they win lane when these champions, both of them, are not designed to either win lane or be lane bullies. They're really not. They're scaling hyper carries. They're melee AD carries. That's what they are. they're not supposed to be strong early. So I do see Yone players are going to absolutely flip their lid about this, but I think it's good. The only thing I would say to it is, I've said this in a couple of my commentaries, I don't know why they just haven't made the rune ranged only. I know Riot hasn't loved doing that, throughout history of the game, but if Lethal Tempo is good on AD carries and it helps them survive, or whatever you want to say, it helps an actual AD carry, then make it only for AD carries. Make it ranged only. To me, I don't know if that's something they considered. I'm not sure. But yeah. So in essence, they're not just leaving it as it is, by the way, so nobody panic. So because they're doing this, they're changing both Press the Attack, Fleet Footwork, Conqueror, and Hail of Blades, I think. Or those are obviously the 4 that you're going to land on, and they're doing some reworks of these things to make them better for the displaced people that used to use Lethal Tempo. So reworks, so hailing for the Resolve tree, our first candidate is Font of Life. Font of Life, in its current state, it's a very narrow rune that has both activation restrictions, slower mobilize, and the payoff restrictions. An ally uses basic attacks on a marked target. It just didn't feel satisfying to players having a heal over time instead of an immediate one. So the new one is impair the movement of an enemy champion and restores health to you and the lowest health nearby allied champ. So it's more of an instant reward for stunning or immobilizing someone. That's fine. The next one, anything, nothing major there. So here is obviously the big thing about Lethal Tempo, so replacement. So with Lethal Tempo existing in Precision Keystone space, we wanted to make sure Press the Attack fits more with other Precision Keystones as a hybrid burst and follow-up damage amplification rune, much like it already is, but it's slightly been changed. So it is worth saying, again, I looked at this, this is a nerf to early game champs that use PTA. So like Lucian uses PTA, Renekton uses PTA. This is a nerf to them. So because Lethal Tempo was more about sustained fights and long fights, and that's going away, they're changing PTA to be better for sustained fights. It doesn't give you any range like Lethal Tempo did, but the new one, hitting an enemy champion 3 consecutive times deals bonus damage, so you still get the bonus damage, but it amplifies your damage until you leave combat. Which obviously the current one did both burst and basically just did more damage. So in essence, it's giving you a little bit of damage if you hit 3 stuff, but it's making you do more damage until you leave combat. So it's rewarding long trades, not bursts, in essence. So Press the Attack basically remains everything you loved about it, but if you hit a target 3 times, you get burst. But now, in addition, in a 1v1 situation, your follow-up damage against the target will be amplified. But since this amplification is now a selfish buff, rather than a single target buff, the rune will be better for champions fighting team fights front to back or frequently swapping targets. So yeah, it's better basically for extended fights. It's not as good for burst. So again, players like Lucian, Renekton, etc., they might not like that because that's the whole strength of using that rune, So Overheal is also being changed. So Overheal is a rune that can be quite problematic when it's too powerful, but when it isn't strong, it tends to be completely overlooked as an option. That makes it not so great rune, which is why we'll be removing it this split and replacing it with Absorb Life. Absorb Life is a new sustain option that aims to give Precision Tree users the ability to heal off lane minions and jungle camps in the mid to late game with some lane sustain. So killing a target heals you for a small amount. The way that they'll make that not obnoxious in lane phase is they'll just, with the scaling of it, make it really not heal much in early game. So there you go. But that, in essence, is the main changes. So AD carries are fundamentally getting a bunch of item changes and new items. Lethal Tempo is being removed. Again, they haven't probably said it as much. It's mainly because of the Wind Brothers. Like, genuinely. If it's a weak rune for AD carries and you buff it up, it will be instantly more broken for those two. That's the problem with the rune. You can't balance it when those two champs can use it as late game hyper carries. It's too awkward. So again, I still don't know why they just wouldn't make it ranged only, but it is what it is. But yeah, so ultimately I think it's pretty good. By the way, there are more items coming. They haven't mentioned it here, and I don't know why they haven't. I do think there are a couple of mage items happening. If I'm not mistaken, It might be Deathfire. It's an old item. It's an old name of an item coming back. I think it might be Deathfire Grass, but it might be something else. If you know what that is, let me know in the comments. But yeah, let me know what you think. No more lethal tempo. Again, that's a big change, and I know a lot of people are still to this day frustrated about a Yone. So yeah, I think this is a good change overall. It's going to make so many more Yones, well, where they're used to winning early, where they have too much strength or lethal tempo, they're not going to win early anymore. They shouldn't. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. It'll be interesting to go on the Yone subreddit when the patch goes out, and then probably all going, we need it back. But anyway, that's it. If you guys enjoyed, let me know what you think down below. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace.